friends, and welcome to Coffee with My Sunshine, and welcome back to part 2 of my most favorite farmhouse DIYs that we've done together. All you're going to need for the milk bottle vase is this glass vase or jar from the Dollar Tree. And I also picked up another stem of just some of their pretty flowers. You can put anything in here that you want. And of course I used the Waverly chalk paint in white, but you can use whatever paint you have. And I just went ahead and used this foam brush type thing because I think it goes on better than with just a regular paintbrush. And I did 2 coats. So I wanted mine to look a little bit more distressed and chipped looking than the ones I've seen at Hobby Lobby. This is the black paint that I'm going to be using. You need a Q-tip. And then we're just going to go ahead and start chipping away at the chalk paint after it's dry. Don't wait too long because the longer you wait, the harder it gets to chip off. So just kind of chip away where you think you're going to want the look, I guess, because we're going to add the paint wherever we chip the chalk paint off. And because I have never done this before, I just started with a really light coat of the black paint, but then I go back over it because you need a good amount on the Q-tip. So here I'm just going around wherever I chipped off the chalk paint, and I'm adding some of the black. And you can even do some of the chips in the middle of the bottle or wherever you want it. And then just to add a little bit more of a rusty look to it, I added some brown paint in the same way that I added the black. I thought it needed a little bit more chipped look to it because it kind of looked spotty, I guess. So I'm just going to chip right around the edge again, almost all the way around, and then add more of the black and brown paint. Like I said, this is all preference, so chip away. All right, and for the tea towel ladder, all you'll need is, I think my husband said, a 1x1 and then whatever the length is. I measured 16 inches because I think most cabinets and countertops are 18 inches apart. Okay, so now you're just going to go over the pieces with some sandpaper because you're going to have just some of the pieces sticking up and you're going to want to smooth those out. Then I took the side pieces and measured 2 inches down and then 3 inches apart because each of the slats are going to be 1 inch. So you want each slat, I guess, 2 inches apart. You'll see what I mean. So then if you want to stain it or paint it, that's what you're going to want to do now. And actually you should measure after you do this step. I did mine before and then had to go and measure all over again. But I used the dark walnut. Then my husband helped me on this step. And we just pre-drilled a hole because we were going to put nails through. And right here we forgot to add the glue. So we did that off camera, and now we're doing the next step. We added the glue, pre-drilled the holes, and hammered it in. And I apologize, my head is in the shot. And the wood glue is just to add a little bit more strength and so that the slats don't spin. So I thought you could put the ladder on a little bar type thing, or I'm going to be putting mine in my kitchen. In part one, I did mention, for anybody who hasn't seen that yet, that these are just a bunch of videos that I put together just to have them all in one spot, and I thought it would be helpful for you guys. But I did want to mention that because they are different videos from different times, there's going to be changes in music and volumes, because when I was first starting out, for some reason I thought the music had to be blaring in between me talking. So I apologize for that. So of course, because I like to thrift, I got a frame from Goodwill, and you can pick any size frame that you want. I'm also using chalk paint, white and gray, and acrylic paint because I ran out of chalk paint. You're also going to need 3 pieces of wood depending on the size of your frame. And I didn't give sizes because all the frames are going to be different. And all I did with my boards was cut them down to size, and I sanded them and wiped them down so that there wasn't any dust. When I'm painting the boards, I'm not going to paint them solid. I want to leave some of the wood showing through just to give it a more rustic look. And I'm not going to worry about painting the bottom, but I am going to paint all of the sides because those will be showing. Then I just flipped it over, and I'm going to pre-drill some holes because as you can see, there's a nail in the middle one. I tried to nail it, but it split the wood, so I'm going to use smaller screws. Okay, so here I tried to pre-drill a hole for the screw, and the bit got stuck in the wood. After all the holes are pre-drilled, we're just going to put the screws in. And then I used some of those felt pads that you put on the bottoms of things just to cover the screw heads because I didn't have any flat screws on hand. So they're a little bit rounded and I didn't want them scratching the coffee table. But I would definitely use flat ones if you have them. So after that is all set, you just flip it over and make sure there's no dust on the white pieces of wood because we are going to use this decal that I got at the Dollar Tree. Then after you have the words where you want them, just press them down really well, make sure there's no air bubbles, and then you're going to put a coat or two of Mod Podge over it, and this will help seal in the words so that they don't peel up, and also it helps for when you want to wipe down the tray or whatever. It just gives it more of a smooth surface. And here's what it looks like with the handles. I just put some hot glue on the handles for now. I would like to screw them in when I get some better looking screws because I actually want to use it as a tray and be able to carry it around because it's pretty hefty. I just love how it turned out. I love the rustic farmhouse feel to it. And you could also change this up to have more of a coastal theme to it. You can display it however you'd like. If you guys are new here, I would love for you to subscribe and join my YouTube family. And if you do, don't forget to hit the bell, because that will notify you of all the videos and any content that I put out there. So I'm actually going to be making this beehive, and I thought it was super cute and wanted to show you how I make it. So for this, if you're going to be putting it outside, you're going to want to be using a water resistant glue, kind of like the Gorilla Glue that I used in one of my last DIYs, because hot glue will not hold if it gets wet. But for mine, this isn't a bowl that I wanted to use. This is actually one that we use all the time for food and stuff, but I just wanted to show you how I made it. And it's super simple, and the bowl I actually wanted to use is from the Dollar Tree. So it's going to be super budget friendly, and the rope is also from the Dollar Tree. You're going to need two packages of it, and you're just going to wrap it around until you get almost to the top. And you're going to want to be using more glue than I'm using, because this was actually my last glue stick, so I wanted to make sure I had enough to finish the project. That's why you're seeing the gaps right there, because I didn't have enough glue on there to hold it in place. But when I remake it, I'm going to be using the Gorilla Glue and be using a lot more of it, just because I want it to not fall apart when it rains. So then here you're going to want to take the glass bowl, which you can also find at the dollar store, and you're going to want to glue it down on top of the bowl. And then you're going to start using the second package of rope and just start wrapping it around and glue it around the smaller bowl as well. And once you get to the top, you're going to want to leave a small section open so that you can cut the rope and make a loop, and then glue it on the little area that you hadn't wrapped the rope around yet. And if you're using the Gorilla Glue, once it dries completely, you'll be able to use that handle as an actual handle. And then take the remainder of your rope and wrap it around. This is going to make the little opening that you see on beehives. And you're going to want to glue that into a circle. And then you're going to want to glue the little circle onto the front of the beehive. And I'm just taking little pieces of paper off of my rope because that's from a DIY that I had done previously. And then if you have a Sharpie, you can use it here, a black Sharpie. I did not, so I'm just taking a little bit of black paint and filling in the hole just so it actually looks like the hole is deeper than it is. First off, we're starting by cutting chunks of wood out of a scrap piece that we already had. And my husband cut them down to 3 inches by 3 inches, I believe. And I would suggest that you use probably cedar for this, because my husband said a lot of the wood comes treated, which has a lot of chemicals, so make sure you don't get that. And I guess cedar isn't normally treated. But anyway, you're going to need 4 of those blocks. Some stencils, wood beads of your choice, doesn't matter size, color, anything. White and black paint is what I used. You can use whatever colors match your decor. Paintbrushes and some paint sponges. and also twine. I think I forgot to say that. So I'm just kind of laying it out to see, you know, kind of what it's going to look like. And then we're going to drill holes in, you know, that goes all the way through on both sides, because that's where we're going to be putting the twine through. And my husband did this for me as well. I usually work with the tools, but this time he was home and said he would help, so I took him up on his offer. So after the holes were drilled, I just went ahead and took some of the white paint and gave each of the blocks 2 coats. And of course you can use any color you would like here, whatever will go with the decor in your home. And now all the cubes are coated, and I was just measuring to make sure they were all 3 inches, because the stencil letters we got were like the whole cardboard piece was 2 inches, but the actual letters were 1 inch. So I just wanted to make sure that it was centered on the block. Here, just measuring, and I wanted to tape it so that it didn't move when I was using the black paint. And then I just took the sponge brush that I had to apply the black paint onto the stencil. And I like using the sponge brushes better than an actual brush, because it helps to keep it from bleeding, you know, under the stencil and stuff. So the ones at Joann Fabrics, I saw they said home life, and I did that. I did the words home life, and then for the other 2 sides, I didn't want to repeat that, so I decided to add my own words, and I did cozy on one side and love on the other. And I'm pretty sure with having guys in the house, it won't be long before this thing says a weird word or the letters are all messed up. After the words have dried, you're going to feed the twine through. You're going to put a bead at the very end and tie a knot to hold it in place. Put a cube on, then another bead, another cube, another bead, you know, so on and so forth. You can use a wire, that's what I did in the beginning, to attach to the twine so that it feeds through the cube, but it did fine after that without it. And then you want to tape the twine probably when you're feeding it through the beads, that way it doesn't fray. And at the very end, you want to tie a couple knots like you did in the beginning. And this, I just had my husband help me so that I could hold the beads and the cubes tight, because I didn't want there to be like a lot of slack room. And that's it. It was super simple. Like I said, this would be really cute, you know, different colors or different color beads, whatever. You could make it say whatever you want. It's so like versatile. It would, you know, you can make it just fit your home and your family. When you guys get a chance, if you could leave me a comment letting me know if you guys like these big playlists or longer videos, just having like the different videos grouped together, and if you find it easier, you know, I could do it for different seasons or holidays or themes or whatever. Let me know what you guys think. I'm taking a paint can and a piece of fabric from Walmart and an old sweater that I had and some Mod Podge. And this paint can I've had for a while. Usually if I plan on using them, I let the paint dry out. That way you don't have to try and rinse the paint out and take forever, because it will dry and it comes out in really big chunks. I don't know why it's so satisfying to get the whole bottom to come out in one piece. So after that, I just remove the label, and of course I'm recycling trash for this one. And then just taking the fabric and Mod Podging it onto the paint bucket. And I was really just wanting to go for a super like wintry, fresh look, and I still wanted it to be cozy looking because I wanted to, you know, add in like Christmas flowers or just like winter greenery, whatever. I thought it would look super cute. So then after adding the fabric from Walmart, I'm just taking the sleeve from the sweater and I'm going to cut it kind of long because I want to fold over the top part of, I want to fold a piece over the paint can. And I love how it turned out. I think it's super cozy and cute. And then here I just styled it on my fireplace with the sign that we just made. And then for this one, I just took some scrap pieces of wood and cut angles on the top part so that it looked like tags. And then I tried while my husband was at work to drill a hole into this wood, and I thought it would be super, super simple because I've done it before, but it turns out I was using the wrong bit. So I'm just taking some chalk paint and then just some black acrylic paint on the other one and just doing a light coat kind of in the center and kind of sloppy. I saw a picture of something similar on Pinterest and fell in love with it. I just liked the idea of the giant tags. So then I'm just taking some sandpaper because the edges were pretty rough. Like I said, these were just scrap pieces of wood. And if you don't have wood, you could make this out of like the foam board from Dollar Tree. They just wouldn't be as like sturdy, I guess, but they would look just as cute. So after my husband got home, he told me which drill bit to use, and it worked like a charm. And I didn't measure where the hole should go, I just eyeballed it. Then after that, I'm taking these snowflakes from this book that I've showed you before. I'm pretty sure it was from the Dollar Tree, but they're just like foamy little stickers, but I'm going to use them as stamps because I don't have snowflake stamps. And I just painted them with a little bit of chalk paint. I didn't want it to be too heavy because I wanted it to still show a little bit of the paint and the wood through. And then I just positioned them how I wanted them and pushed down, kind of like you would a stamp. And I think that worked out perfectly, just as rustic as I was wanting it to. And then I'm going to do the same for the other two snowflakes. And I will try to find the original inspiration picture that I saw on Pinterest, and I will link it in the description box if I can find it again. And then I just took some twine and then I'm just going to put it through the hole that we drilled. And I think that's awesome. I love how it looks. And there's my cat. He's trying to get to the heater vent that I'm kind of blocking. He loves sitting there in the winter. And then for the white tag, I'm just going to spell out the words Winter Wonderland. I wanted to use bigger stencils, but I didn't have the correct size. The ones I had were way too big. So I'm just going to go with this. And I'm using a hairdryer in between each letter that I do. That way it's not smearing the paint all over. And I'm just using the same black acrylic paint that I used on the other tag and just a makeup sponge. So I think it still needed something, so I mixed some of the white and black paint to make like a really light gray. and I'm coating one of the snowflakes and putting it kind of off to the side. And then doing the same thing I did on the other one. And I love it. I love these tags. These are probably my favorite, along with the flower pot. Let me know what you guys think and which one was your favorite. So for the coffee storage shelf, we started off by cutting the wood that we needed. And if you don't have the tools to cut the wood, then you can also head on over to Michael's, because this DIY was actually inspired by a DIY idea that my mom had sent me that she found on the Michael's website, and they actually have the crates already made. But we decided to make ours ourselves. And the boards that we cut 2 9x8s, 4 9x5s, and 4 7x5s. And then we just put them together with wood glue and clamped them just so that they would hold tight, and we let them sit for a few hours. We didn't even really need to nail it. They held together really good. So you're actually going to need 2 of these boxes, but I just wanted to show you one just so the video wasn't an hour long. So then after the glue had dried, we started sanding down the edges because they were a little bit rough from sawing. So I didn't have the exact color that I wanted, so I thought I would mix some stains, and these are the colors that I used. And you're going to want to make sure that you have gloves on for this because it gets pretty messy. And then I just used an old sock to rub on the stain. And then after I was done with that, I just took another sock and just wiped off the excess. After the stain was dry, I brought them inside and measured where I wanted the hooks, and I measured 2 inches down from the top and then 2 3/4 inches from the side. So after this, I did the other box, and like I said, I didn't show both because I didn't want the video to be super long. And then I had 4 mason jars that my mom had given me for this project, and I just filled them with some different kinds of coffee that we had. And I have these paint pens that are awesome for glass. And then I just wrote what kind I was putting in the jar. So I'm super happy with how this turned out. I think it's going to look really cute on our coffee bar when we get that put in our kitchen. Hey friends, and welcome to Coffee with My Sunshine. If you want to see how I made this tiered tray, then let's get started. The pieces that I used for this tiered tray are a few items that I picked up from Habitat for Humanity. I picked up 2 different types of cabinet doors and 2 spindle type things from beds or headboards. First, you want to start by marking where you want to make the cuts depending on how high you want your tiered tray and how much room you want in between each tier. And for this piece that I'm showing you here, I forgot to hit record, but I did cut that along with a centerpiece of the spindle, and I'm going to end up gluing them together to make the very top piece of the tray. But I realized after I did that the cute little topper was a little bit bigger than the middle piece that I cut for it to go on top of. So I'm going to use our sander to make it nice and flat, and then also take down some of the edges to make it fit with that centerpiece. And this is actually one of my favorite tools to use. It is really fun and it makes sanding go by so fast. Next, we are going to take some more of the spindle and cut it down for the center and the bottom of the tiered tray. Then we are taking the cabinet doors and cutting them down to size. And I'm not giving measurements because it all depends on what size tiered tray you want and what size cabinet doors you are using. And I thought I would go ahead and glue that top piece together so it has time to dry, and then we clamped it. We just used some regular wood glue, and that usually holds really, really well. And then you're going to want to let that dry for quite a while. As that was drying, we went ahead and cut the rest of the spindles and the smaller cabinet door for the top of the tiered tray. And because the cabinet doors both had holes from the handles in them, I'm just taking some of this wood putty and filling them in. And you're going to want to use more putty than you think you'll need, because as this stuff dries, it really shrinks. And these are those little bottom pieces that we used from this, that we cut from the spindle. And I'm going to use those as little legs for the tiered tray. And here's the wood putty after it is dried. I'm just picking at it to make sure that it's good to go. And then I went ahead and used a paint scraper to scrape off the big chunks of it, and then gave it a good sanding. And this stuff is super easy to sand. Then for mine, I'm just using some of this Waverly white chalk paint and giving both the cabinet doors 2 coats. And you can use whatever you want. You can use whatever color. You can use acrylic paint, spray paint, doesn't matter. It's just what I had on hand. So as those are drying, I'm just taking some of this 220 grit sandpaper and sanding down all the pieces just to make sure they have a nice smooth edge. And I'm using 2 different stains because I wanted like a coastal or driftwood color. So for this I'm using the Natural Stain by Minwax and the Weathered Gray by Rust-Oleum. And make sure you use gloves or you will have stained fingers for days. And I started by putting the natural stain down first, and these wood pieces are ones that my husband cut for me for the edges of the tray. I wasn't sure at first that I wanted edges, but I thought it would look better, so he went ahead and cut those for me, and we did not film that. I forgot. So I went ahead and stained everything. And I did not wipe off the natural stain before I put down the Weathered Gray. I just layered it right over top, and it was still wet, so and it seemed to work fine. And then I just let those pieces dry overnight, and then we went ahead and attached the edges with a little bit of wood glue and these tiny nails. And I'm glad I went with these edge pieces. I think it just kind of finishes it off a little bit better. And then you're going to want to mark the center of your tiered pieces by drawing an X and going from each corner just to find the center piece. And then you're going to want to do the same thing for the spindles that go in the center. We decided to pre-drill just so it was easier for the screws to go in, so it didn't like crack any of the wood pieces. I will have all the tools listed in my description box if you guys are interested. And this screwdriver makes it so much easier. So here we pre-drilled and then put the screw in part way just so we could screw on that center piece of the spindle, and then went ahead and screwed it on, screwed the screw in the rest of the way. And then same with the next layer, and then just put that on top of the spindle. And then for the bottom little round pieces, I just put a little bit of wood glue on them and set the tray right on top and adjusted the feet so that I liked the placement. And then for the top piece, since it doesn't need to be like super strong, we just use some wood glue to attach it. And that was it. It was actually like a really fun project. I received so many questions and so many of you liked this barn, I thought I would do a video dedicated just for it and explain it a little bit better. So to create the barn, you're going to need 4 Dollar Tree frames that are 5 by 7. The frame around it is 3/4 inch, and that actually is important to the size of the actual lantern. This is where I got a lot of the questions. People wanted a template for the roof part of this barn. These are the sizes that I used. So I hope this helps, and I just took some scrap wood that we had and cut these roof pieces out of that. And like I said, you'll need 2 of them. And then I took some paint stir sticks and I cut 10 of them at 7 1/4 inches because I wanted a little bit of overhang. And like I showed in the last video, I got the base idea from my lantern that I had done probably a year ago now. I will link that above if you guys want to see that. You will also need a bottom piece that is 7 1/4 inches by 8 inches. I used this antique white for the base of my barn mixed with a little bit of white chalk paint, and I removed the glass from the frames, and I just went ahead and painted everything. And of course, if you just wanted to use this, you know, like at Christmas time, or you wanted it to look like an actual barn, you could paint it red or whatever color fits your decor. Make sure you paint on the inside of the frames as well, because you're going to be able to see that through the glass. And originally I painted the base this antique white color, but then decided to go in and paint it black. So I mixed black with a little bit of brown. I'm also going to do the roof, or the like shingle things, black as well. And I did just a very rough coat of black because I wanted it to have a rustic look. Like I said, do what you want here. It's all whatever fits your style. And you want to paint both sides of the paint stir sticks. I didn't, and it actually looks kind of crappy. It looks unfinished. So if I make another one, I'm definitely going to paint both sides, or all sides actually. Then those 2 roof pieces, you're going to want to paint the same as your base color or whatever you decide. And then you put your glass back in, and when you fold the tabs down, paint them the same color as the base. And then I just took hot glue and went ahead and glued the glass back into the frame just on the corners. And you'll also want to leave the glass out of one frame, and that's going to be the back of your lantern. That way you can you know, change whatever you put in there easily, because the top won't come off. And then to build your base, you're going to want it the frames like this. Not like this, because if you do it like that, it's more like a square. So you want them more like a rectangle, like the base is. And then just use a little bit of hot glue, and if you use a high heat hot glue gun, it holds really, really well. Glue all your frames together. And then I just used a little bit of wood glue and hot glue and put it on the bottom of the lantern, or the bottom of the frames, to glue to the base of the lantern. Like I said, you want it more of a rectangle look like that, with the open frame in the back. And then you're going to use the same wood glue and hot glue to glue the roof on, or the front and the back of the barn. Make sure you clean up any of the glue that squirts out, because you will see that, and you'll be able to see that on mine here shortly, because I didn't get all of the overflow. Then the same wood glue and hot glue, I went ahead and started attaching the paint stir sticks on the top. And that third piece, I think it was the third piece, I had to cut in half. That way it would fit on that slant, because if I didn't, it would have overhung, and I thought that looked kind of weird. So there's my little half piece. And then I went ahead and just attached them all the way down. And on to the next side, same process. I'm sorry if my voice sounds a little bit raspy. I seem to be losing it for some reason. I'm not sick, so I don't know what's going on. It's just a little dry. So I still have to add 2 more pieces here. And then for the front of the barn, where the little window is, I just used one of the frame inserts. And you can use whatever you want here. You can make it round or whatever. But like I said, I'm just using the little pieces of cardboard that came in the frames and cutting them to the size that I like. There's no set measurement here. And then I painted those gray, just so they were a little bit different than the base and the roof. And I just hot glued that onto the front. And then made the little X pieces in the middle with the same cardboard pieces from the frame. And here it is all finished. Like I said, I'm kind of bummed I forgot to paint the inside of the stir sticks, because you can kind of tell, you know, when you look at it straight on. But here, like in my last video, I'm just showing you how sturdy it actually is. It isn't one of those like really flimsy lanterns. I can pick it up by the roof. I can push on it. I can shake it. There's my puppy, and you can actually hear her in the background. We are finishing up here. Thank you so much for anybody who stuck with me until the very end of this video. It is a long one. Even if you hopped around to different DIYs, that's awesome. I hope you enjoyed and that you come back. I would love to have you join my YouTube family if you are new here. And for all my returning subscriber friends, I love you guys and you mean so much to me. Thank you so much for all of your love and support, and I will see you next time. Bye!